If I told you that at the end of this video, you'll be able to get your hands on a creative strategy process that is responsible for some of the highest converting Facebook and TikTok ads you've seen out there that sustained over $12 million in ad spend and were responsible for over $30 million in generated revenue, what would you say? Personally, I'd probably say it sounds too good to be true, but I'm telling you, I want to reveal my entire creative strategy process in this video. Not only the way that I think, the way that I leverage this in practice, so showing you how exactly you can go from theory to practice, and even share with you some real life examples of ads that crushed it for our 70+ e-commerce brand partners. If you don't yet know who I am, my name is Justin, and I'm the founder at paidadvertising.com, an e-commerce growth firm specializing in elevating thriving brands by simplifying e-commerce growth. And I want to say a big thank you to MagicBrief for sponsoring today's video. So I'm starting with theory, going into practice. When it comes to creating a full end-to-end creative workflow, I divide that into 3 core steps, as you can see on screen right now. There's research, concepting and positioning, and ad creation. That is the workflow that I've been not only teaching my own team, but teaching all of our students essentially in our private community for the last couple of months. So research is prior to creating your ad. It's understanding the market, understanding the competition, understanding your persona, understanding their desires, right? Understanding what moves them and how can that possibly be tied into your product, which now you move into concepting and positioning, which at that point, you want to hone in on your target. You want to identify the mass market desires that really move the majority part of your audience. You want to be able to identify all the USPs of each of your product and then tie them to a benefit. Finally, you want to combine these two and build out persona profiles. Who is it exactly that I want to target? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What really moves them on top of these mass market desires? I'm going to give you an example, right? I recently advertised services that were solving chronic back pain. Chronic back pain is a mass market desire. But when it comes to building out the persona, perhaps our persona is an older lady that just loves to do gardening and she can't do gardening because of her chronic back pain. Well, that's a specification of the persona, right? It adds itself to the overall mass market desire, right? And then finally, once we have the concept and the positioning of our ad, then we get into the creation. We make the ad brief. We essentially like hone in onto all of our information, combine that together, and then make a brief that is usable for our creators or creative team essentially to edit on top of, right? So that is the kind of workflow at a macro level, the theory behind all of that. And this is where I've now been using this tool called MagicBrief to help me with that. Because the beauty with them is that they've built their software with the same exact workflow that we've been using, right? Look at this. They've got Inspire, which in other words is your research, concept, which is going back to your concepting and positioning, and briefs, which in other words is creating the ad creation process. They've managed to really, I think, boil down the overall creative process that we've been following again to allow us to spend over $12 million on ads in these last couple of years. They've built their software around that. So they're not just kind of this regular ad swap file builder, and that's what I want to focus on in today's video, is I want to show you how you can leverage this creative strategy process into MagicBrief's software. I'm guessing if you're watching this video, you've probably seen other swap file builders out there, so I'll focus more on kind of what's different about this one to start with. One of the first things you might already see from the bat is I'm on this Discover tab, which is, I think, quite common for a lot of swap file builders to have. It shows you a bunch of different ads that either other users have saved or that they themselves have saved into the platform. One of the things that stands out is this ad scoring feature. So while we're doing research, if you want to look at ads, typically something that is hard to gauge is like how good is an ad, right? The one thing that I would usually use is the longevity of an ad. So I would typically click on an ad and then see for how long has it been running and then kind of take my action from there or decide whether or not this ad was going to be a good one. Well, so what ad score does is it combines 3 elements together. It combines, well, the longevity of the ad itself, which is something I've personally already been using. But through Magic AI, they actually, so let's say it's a video, right? They would get the video transcript of that video. They would analyze the quality of the script. And if it's a video, once again, they analyze the editing pace. And if it's a static, they'd analyze the overall composition of the ad and factor that in to get you an ad score out of a scale of 1 to 4, right? 4 being the strongest, 1 being the lowest. So that helps you look at competitors' ads or at other ads in the industry and quickly gauge whether or not this ad probably is good to get inspired from. Because typically, honestly, if you look at some of these ads, you might end up being misled to believe an ad is a good one simply because it looks good. That's one of the flaws I'd say that a lot of beginners fall prey to, is that an ad simply looks good and then they immediately assume that this is going to be a high performing ad. Looking good and performing isn't necessarily the same thing. Of course, typically a good performing ad looks somewhat good, but there's a lot more to it, right? And the editing pace or the composition of this ad, as well as the quality of the script, usually are some of the biggest indicators of that success. Now, something that is often overlooked in the research stage is just how kind of easy you can search through a given bar. You can see I've searched for cuts earlier as a brand, but one of the things that these guys have that I haven't yet personally seen in another kind of swap file builder software, I personally have never seen one where, again, the video transcript has been fully synthesized by their algorithm, which allows you to search videos based on the transcript. So I'm going to give you an example, right? So as an example, I've got this one right here, right? Here's how to find the lowest price on a hotel. And that's exactly what the creator says out loud. So I'm going to search for that right now and show you the results. And then there you go. As I've searched for that right here, you can see a bunch of different videos from Hopper themselves about that literally say out loud in the video. If you watch them, here's how to find the lowest price hotel. So that kind of adds to the capabilities of you searching through these ads. You can recall essentially, oh, I've remembered hearing this in an ad. Let me try and look through it. And then that's one of the ways essentially that you can do so. Now, another thing that's unique is the packs out here, which they regroup together ads that share like a common theme. So that once again helps you with anything that's currently trending, because look, that's another thing, right? If I go to Discover here, okay, I'll see a bunch of like ads in general, but what if I wanted to check like a podcast style of ad? Or what if I wanted to check like street interviews, which are trending right now? There's not really like any form of search criteria I can input right here that's only going to get me street interviews, where that's what they do here. They regroup those together. So street interviews, an example, I could click view pack, and it's a bunch of ad creatives that are street interviews. So that allows you to get inspiration, not necessarily from a specific competitor, but more from an ad type at this point. So now, enough about Inspire. I want to get into concept, right? Because I feel like Inspire is this part where a lot of swipe file builders are already doing. So you basically go and add. If you like it, you hit save. You save it to your ads. So right here, I have my ads. There you go. I've saved an ad. Great. Let's move on. So concept right here has two things. So it's got boards actually in collections, but for the most part, boards I'd say is where it's most interesting. That's creating a storyboard. So that is essentially the step one, going back right here into concepting and positioning, kind of figuring out what is going to be the overall concept I'm going for. Why is that? What's going to be my position? What am I going to talk about in this ad? Okay. So once you've done doing research, so the first step I would do as an example is save ads that have something about them that I like. You could group them then under a given collection for a specific brand or ad concept you're working on. So let's say here, I save these two ads from cuts. I would just open them up right here and say cuts, right? And I would create a new collection. Perfect. Saved it right there. Same thing here. So same thing here on the second ad. I'm going to click on it, save it right there. There you go. Now cuts right here, as you can see, I'll click on it. It's got two ads in there. Great. I've got a collection. So I'll go to my concepting right here. I'll create a new board. So which I just did right there. And then here's how a board works. You have a choice by different kind of UGC or video blocks that you can put. If you want to do static, then I'd say just do one. So as an example, I could just click on it and then go to delete here top right, and then I would have only one frame because I want to make a static. I could add essentially an example of that static right there and then kind of give it out instructions for my creative editing team as an example. But typically boards are most commonly used for videos, and also typically nowadays anyways, a lot of brands are leveraging video ads. And typically when you do this research right here, you spend a lot of time in concepting and positioning when building video ads. So right here, you can put essentially whatever you want from a script basis, and then here more as an action step, right? So blah, 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 do a backflip. Hey, hey, do another backflip. And that's that. So once I'm out of it, so then here, I could actually have different statuses for my team to go through those. So as an example, if I have a creative strategist and potentially a creative director internally, which we do on our side. So usually our creative strategist would write the concept, and then we would have our client service director review directly the ad that this person has made. So right there, I could actually just click on this, go for settings, change from in progress as an example to needs review. I would hit close. And then now I know that if I'm the client service director, I come out here, I know I need to review that. And then once I've reviewed it, essentially, I can go back right here, say approved. And then if I'm the creative strategist, I come back here and I know that anything that is approved in the concepting stage can now be moved onto the brief stage, which going back right here, you move from concepting and positioning to the ad creation side, okay? So when you move out the brief, you've got two things. You've got briefs and profiles. Profiles essentially allow you to group certain elements that are specific to a brand. So if you're an agency, you can make different profiles. If you're a brand, and you can make only one profile for your brand. So clicking on that, and this is where it gets very interesting, and I'm happy they added that. So if I've got my brand profile as an example, I can click on it right here. Then I could go edit. And then this is all the information about the brand. So I could tag my brand guidelines as an example, the industry, the brand page, the brand info about it. There's like different, they call it modules. It's like different things. So as an example, I could click attach files and it allows me to like easily drag and drop a files. Or I could just drop right here. There's a rich text editor and I could just type whatever I want, essentially highlight it, make it bold, make it a heading, right? So on and so forth. So I can really kind of do whatever I want right here and add any instructions that I think is going to be relevant for this brand, which is where it's interesting, right? But perhaps like restrictions, or perhaps there's like specificities for that specific client that we want to write down. Like they don't like carousels. They only like videos or photos as an example. Then we can write these down right here. So now we've got the brand profile. The brand profile hosts the product profiles, which that is interesting. Because going back to concepting and positioning, one of the key stages of that part, we call it product performance, which is you pick your product, the product itself, you select the different main features and mechanisms of that product. So USPs, the unique selling points, the unique selling propositions of that product could be the fabric, could be the fit, could be the color, right? I'm talking about the t-shirts now that I've been showing so far. So I can now segregate these benefits or features per product, because in the marketing fundamentals, going back to the persona here and choosing the persona that we're going to target, this will be highly influenced by the product itself. You might have different products in your store that appeal to different personas, or on the flip side, you could also have one product that appeals to many different personas, right? So that's why you want to separate both the personas and the product themselves. Both are considered variables in this case, which I think is great that they took the time to separate down on their sides. Then I have my brand profile that hosts my overall brand guidelines, and then the product profiles right here, which hosts my product guidelines. So I could have right here as an example some information about the product. Bingo, right? Features. I could turn features into either the description of it or feature into benefit, right? So they give me space to do my product performances straight on the app right there. And then obviously, just like the brand profile, there is a rich text editor, which kind of allows me to do whatever I want. They've also got these modules right here, which could be like ad references that most specifically like represent based that specific product. So now I'm going to head back, and I'm going to head back essentially to the start. So I showed you earlier, there's profiles and then there's briefs. Here too, A1 job, I think, at choosing the brief types and the different statuses a creative team would need, because that's exactly what we've been using internally. When you are doing ads, there's two types of concepts you'll want to create. Either new concepts, so a brand new far right idea. You've never tried this idea so far. It's something completely new for your business. Or you'll want to iterate. You've already found a winner, but you want to make changes to that winner. And in this case, you may or may not want to create a whole different brief for that. You might just want to duplicate a old version of a brief and then label it as an iteration right here. With that, by the way, is great for results tracking, because as an example, let's say I go right here, I go from status, I go to live. Now I know that this ad is live. So whenever I publish that, let's say on my ad account, I'm gonna move that to live if I was the media buyer. And then I know that this is an ad that is live right now. Then I could actually come back here and then add some notes, right? As the media buyer, I could either add some notes, I could even upload images perhaps about the results, and I can keep track here of how this ad actually is performing. So when I go back right here and then I am once again a creative strategist, I go back, I'm like, all right, here are all the ads that have been live into my account. Let me look into each and every single one of them. I see my media buyer's notes in here, and then from there, I can make a decision. Do I want to iterate on this ad, or should we just simply stop this ad based on these results, right? And if I want to iterate, then I can just duplicate this. I'll change the type to iteration, and then bingo. Now I know that if this ad once again is live and performing, then we can tie this ad then in various ways, you can kind of tie this ad back to the original ad. Would it be through your naming conventions, which is one way I recommend you to do it? That's what we do internally. So let's say this is an example. We would have like something like DCT001 internally as like an ad name. And I'm gonna, basically, if this was an iteration, I would put like the letter A as an example. So I'm gonna like, all right, DCT001A. So this is an iteration, perfect. It's the variation A of a unique ad that we've already tested in the past. Then I could kind of search right here and then go look for an other brief that I made in the past that was DCT001. So I know for a fact that I can kind of find the original concept in there. So when making a brief, there's once again a lot of modules here on the right. You have ad references, so you can plug and play essentially ads that you've already saved in your library. Asset links, so you can link specific assets you want to add to your brief. Channel information, so where you're going to run this ad for. So let's say Facebook and Instagram is an example, right? Add a concept from your workspace, which I've already done, which basically is adding one of the storyboards, right? So adding your concept into your brief, right? So adding your step 2 into your step 3, which is super, super important. So now you can kind of notice step 3 is basically like aggregating together everything you've done in step 1 and 2. So everything you've done in your research, concepting and positioning phase, you're bottling everything up into your ad creation phase. So here, that's why there's ad references, right? So that's my research. Any ads I found useful in my research, I'm putting right here. So that potentially is something I'd want to put to the top, right? And then I'd have my concept, which is my step 2. So from my research, here's the concept I built. Then brief specific information like channel. It could also be content style right here as an example. So is it a UGC? Is it a studio shot? Do I want lifestyle? Do I want all of them? Format information also, right? So is it going to be a video, static, a GIF, carousel, blah, blah, blah. So format, music information, output sizes, all very important. Target audience information, right? Like who are we going to try and appeal to? And invariant info. So if you want to, let's say, work with a creator or you want them to record like 3 different hooks as an example, or perhaps you want to work with your editing team internally and you're like, look, I want you to make 3 variations of this same ad. Here's a timestamp I want you to look into like changing to a different variation. And then you can kind of add all of this variance information and details. And as always, you can also write any custom text that you want or upload any images you want for that matter here at the bottom. And now the beauty with that, you see that at the top, there's brief and content. So if I was going to work with a content creator, I can share them that brief. They can see in detail what we're going to be doing internally with that ad. And then they can simply go to content and then drag and drop files to them. So I can send that link to my content creator. They can just upload content back to it. And here as the creative strategist, I would be able to review the content sent by my creators and then forward that simply with the same link to my ad editing team. One of the key features I want to show you, which is in this concepting page, is actually the storyboards and keyframe feature that MagicBrief has, which if I'm going to click on any video ads, as an example, this one, right? I'll click on this video from Hopper. They've got here Magic AI, and then they've got AI frames beta. So if I click on view keyframes, they actually split the video into keyframes. So they'll show you essentially the different kind of highlights of the different scenes in that video, even show you like a summary of the copy or transcript essentially that was said at the same time. And then you're free to do one or two things. So I could actually go right here and I can either copy the script. So I can just copy simply this part right here. So copy the script, or I can go export script once again, or export to new board. And if I go export to new board, then here, let's say this is an ad from a competitor or a similar ad to the style I want to create for my own brand, then I can start from this. I'll be like, all right, this is what they use here as a scene. I can keep this exact thing, but then change the action for my own creator, or change the script perhaps for my own brand type. Or I don't like this particular scene, so I can click on it, delete it, and then iterate from there, or perhaps add a new frame and then move that frame here in the middle because I want to change the order of that script. And then instead of having to make a full board from scratch, I can make a much faster board from using this storyboarding keyframe feature. And that's how, like, overall I've been able to move through using MagicBrief through the 3 phases that I use in my creative strategy process, right? And I'm sure a lot of you are going to listen to this and think like, how does that compare to other competitors out there? Or like, why would I be using MagicBrief when there's other tools like Foreplay as an example? So some of the key differences between the two, right? Like what Magic AI essentially has that is unique to them. Well, there's the ad scoring that I showed you earlier. There's the search feature for the video transcript, right? So searching per video transcript, the ad packs, so kind of aggregate of ads that share a similar ad type. That's also pretty cool. So let's say you're doing holiday ads, then you can browse through the holiday packs. So you see similar themed ads. There is a storyboard and keyframe feature for like quicker storyboards. There's also the video / photo split of a given brand. So if I go back to Inspire, I go to brands. So any kind of the brands that are saved in this app, you'll see in their ads library how many videos versus photos they use. So as an example, True Classic is 73% videos versus 27% photos in their ad library. Whereas let's say I look at Zero right here, they use only 28% of videos. So it tells you they use 72% therefore of photo creative. So that's actually also pretty neat to see, like, what is the creative diversification of my competitors or other big businesses in my space. And the biggest thing overall I'd have to say is that, once again, MagicBrief, with the way they've laid out the platform, the Inspire Concept Brief is the most aligned platform for creative strategists. Like, it really aligns perfectly with the 3 steps that you should undertake to make a full-fledged ad creative that is backed by strong marketing fundamental principles. Whereas on the flip side, let's say, what are the things that MagicBrief doesn't have that you could probably find on Foreplay? Well, Foreplay has like the experts, so they've got these different influencers as an example that can share their own public ad library, so that could be something you'd want. There's also the ad spy tool, which I think is one of the biggest things that Foreplay has, that allows you to save automatically any new ad that a competitor would be publishing. There's also the fact that Foreplay works with LinkedIn on top of Facebook and TikTok, which MagicBrief is Facebook and TikTok only. But hey, if you're only using paid social platforms, that LinkedIn might not be something you'd be looking for anyways. And finally, the AI briefs feature on Foreplay, which Foreplay can actually create like a full brief. So this last step right here is an example. On Foreplay, it could create like an entire brief done by AI. You just give it a couple of prompts. But in my experience, it sometimes has been a little shaky. So I wouldn't yet call that like the best feature of the competition. The last part that I'd say, which I think is an obvious question that a lot of people might have, is like pricing. How do they differ? So MagicBrief actually is a flat $29 a month per user for like all feature access. You get everything. There's one plan only, and that's it. It's pretty simple. Foreplay is $49 a month for their lowest tier plan, which doesn't give you access to the brief section. If you want the briefs, which would essentially be the version that competes with MagicBrief, then in that case, it'd be $99 a month. So 3 times more expensive, essentially, than MagicBrief for pretty much very similar features. And in fact, I'd even argue that there's some things more, as shown in this video, that MagicBrief has that Foreplay wouldn't have. So if you want to implement this same kind of creative workflow that I've had, well, first and foremost, I'd say check the description down below and click the link to sign up the MagicBrief and get your account today. And then from there, if you want to learn more about the in-depth research process, the in-depth kind of targets, product performance, persona, how I build those on my ends while using tools like MagicBrief, then also check the link down below and join a free school community to learn more. On that note, I'm going to invite you guys to check out other videos on the channel for some more useful e-commerce marketing tips, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace.